Rory McLeod, so good to have you in my house.
Thank you.
Your journey and your story, it's like one of the most inspirational stories ever. So I want to start with where you are now very briefly. So your business now, you're turning over about £8 million per year.
Yeah, probably the main business doing about 8 million a year, and then got like some other kind of businesses and property and
On top of that,
okay,
you're doing some really exciting development stuff, and especially over the last couple of years, which I want to get into. And you started out in a totally different scenario. You started with nothing. You're working class, on drugs as a teenager. Your mum was taken off to a psychiatric ward when you were a kid. So really rough start. So I'm really curious as to how you got from that to where you are now. So there's a lot to get through, but I think people are going to be gripped. There's going to be a lot of golden nuggets, pearls of wisdom, hopefully some inspiration, because people will be able to relate to you that might have nothing or have come from a bad place, but also people that are wanting to really scale things, because you're a great business scaler. So how did it start? Talk to me a bit about your background, your upbringing, and how you got from that to where you are now.
well, my dad was a teacher. My mum was like a housewife, but initially, I suppose when my parents kind of split up, there wasn't a lot of money, and wasn't a very good scene. So I was kind of forced to kind of try and make my own money. So when I was about 12 years old, I went to work in a newsagents, Pakistani newsagents in a wee village called Duntoka, where I lived, and I got 75 pence an hour, and I worked there in the evenings, and then I had a large paper round on a Sunday, and yeah, by the age of 12, I was probably making like kind of 30 quid a week, which was a fortune. Yeah. So that kind of, basically that was the money I used to live, well, more to kind of fund my extracurricular activities. But I did learn about having to work hard to make money. Even on the paper round, it was quite large, so I had to kind of have some basic administration, kind of keeping a log of who paid what and counting my money, and I had to buy the papers, and I made profit, and that was my money, and that was the money for the papers next week. And I had sort of, my business sort of brain was beginning to form at that age, and it was more out of necessity. Other people get pocket money and stuff, and I suppose I kind of resented them, because it was like they get money from their parents that they would use to get a drink at the weekend, whereas I had to work for my money. And I was kind of like, at the time I resented it. Now I look back and think, God, that it was a God's gift, because I really learned at a very young age like how to make money. So that was kind of probably the start. Yeah.
How did you get started on drugs? Like, how did that start as a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah, I smoked my first joint when I was 12. It was just like a local guy had some dope, and we went like a primary school, and we managed to roll like a spliff. And I remember smoking it and feeling like kind of, I suppose I felt like a bit kind of elated, or like kind of out of it, which for me was quite a nice experience, because at the time it was a bit rough. My dad and mum had kind of went their separate ways. My mum was having mental health issues strongly, and I kind of experienced this kind of feeling. It was like, wow, it took me away from that sort of environment. So it was quite attractive. And then it was the same, I started drinking, and my first drink when I was 12, I had 3 bottles of cider, a guy called Michael, and we went out and get drunk. And then I just started doing that every weekend, and that's why I would sit in my room, play my computer, work, and go out and get drunk and take drugs.
Whereabouts were you living? You're in Scotland, right?
Yeah, outside of Glasgow. I 2 areas: Clydebank, which is a predominantly working class area, and then Bearsden, which is a more kind of upper class area. So I was kind of between the two, so I got to see both kind of sides of the divide.
Yeah. So you started your first business, and I know you were cleaning stairs quite early on. Was that your first business?
Yeah.
After paper round?
Yeah, oh God, I'm going to throw you another one. But I went to university, and I got a degree in business, and it was a complete waste of time. I'm sorry if anyone's doing university. And I'd been to art school and different things. And then I ended up in Edinburgh cleaning stairs. And that was like kind of my first sort of grown-up business, and doing tax returns and these different things. And I had a real stigma about doing it, because I had a degree, and here I am mopping stairs and cleaning stairs. And then I quickly saw that I could multiply, and I could actually make a lot of money doing it. and I did, and then I got to the point where I was kind of making like in a day what most people were making in a week.
Yeah. It's your background's interesting because I mean I've spoke to a lot of people that are multimillionaires. I'm a multimillionaire myself, and most people that I know that are very wealthy now or have done really well for themselves in business as a kid had a paper round. And people think rich people, they were born wealthy, but actually there's a lot of people out there that were born into poverty almost and have actually become wealthy because they had to learn business. Yeah. They had to learn business. Yeah. What you said your experience of university wasn't good. I mean, the fact that you even got into university is a bit of a miracle.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, that was a struggle. It wasn't the finest university. The main reason why I went was to get the grants and the student loans to fund partying and going on holiday and stuff like that. But like I used to sleep through the lectures and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of information absorbed. So
was it that the uni was bad, or was it that it was great but you just slept through it?
I just didn't know how to study, and whenever I picked up any books, I generally just kind of fall asleep, or I just couldn't grasp it. I couldn't study. I didn't know how to learn.
It'd be interesting as well to see the contrast, because I know over the last couple of years you've been absorbing a lot of my content online and learning about property, which has been helpful with your recent developments. Yeah. It's interesting to the contrast between the formal education and then self-education. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, when I was looking at your stuff, for example, online, what they don't do at uni and what you do is you will show a real life example of, here's a property, here's the different ways you can buy it. I'm going to explain it to you in detail, and you really go into it. So is it someone that doesn't know anything about buying a property or renting a property or buying and selling or any of these different models that you teach? If somebody watches enough of your content, they can then do it because the information's all there. University is a different thing whereby somebody's got a set sort of hour talk and you have to listen and you have to try and piece it together with other stuff, whereas your stuff's fluid and it's very well laid out and you're given lots of examples. There's even, it sounds silly, but even pictures and film help a person understand more of a subject than just the written word. That's why I think, that's my own personal view, that's why you've done so well, because it's real life and you really go into it in detail and you give examples, so there's not much mystery there if somebody really watches your stuff. Yeah. And that's why I found I started probably about, like I said to you, about 2 years ago, my business partner Stuart introduced me to your stuff online, and that's when we started watching your videos, and a lot of this kind of stuff we were trying, seller finance and different things, I didn't actually know if it was legal. I was like, is this, because you're taught you just get a mortgage. You get a mortgage for your house or you get a mortgage for a buy to rent, and this is the thing. And then here's this guy coming along giving you all these different ways of doing it. And what I learned from you when I was looking at it was buying a house is like buying anything else. It's like if you want to buy a boat and the guy's selling it for 100,000 quid and you've got 50, you say, look, can I give you 50 and then I'll give you the other 50 through time, or could you give me 50 and I'll borrow 50? And then, you can structure some sort of deal to buy that thing. And it's the same with the house, providing the solicitors and lawyers can put something into writing. You can do it. And when I saw your stuff, I was like, wow, there's somebody else out there that's doing it. Then when I really looked at your stuff, I was like, wow, he's doing a lot of stuff, way more than us. So I was like, that was cool, because it was and then I thought, God, I'd really like to meet this guy. Yeah. And then
and we've become friends since, and I've learned a lot from you as well about business and personal development and things. And I'm really honoured that I've been able to play a part in your journey on the property side. I want to talk a little bit about your development side of the business that you've been doing the last couple of years, because you've done some incredible deals. And I think taking your business acumen that you've got, and also your courage, and that's what you're just someone that just gets up and goes. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're turning over 8 million on your business, is because you're a doer, a normal guy from a very underprivileged background that's developed yourself. And I want to talk to you about that as well shortly, about how you've done that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the properties. So talk to me about the barn that you bought. I want to know the numbers, the figures, what's happened, and when you bought it.
Well, it's funny because it was like, on some of your like seminars, you're talking about like how you got the deposit, showing money in the accounts, and there's always going to be a bit of wheeling and dealing in the background and trying to do things.
Creativity, right?
Creativity.
Yeah, because most people, when a door shuts in their face, they go, "Oh, it's not meant to be." Right. Whereas actually, no. The door's shut in your face. You got to walk around it. You got to find another door, or you've got to kick that door down.
Yeah.
And I think that's just what you have to do as an entrepreneur. And someone who's a belt and braces, jobs worth red tape person might frown upon that and say, "Oh, that's not good," or "You shouldn't have done that." But you're not breaking the law. You just sometimes breaking the rules a little bit. And Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about this. He says, don't break the law, but sometimes you have to break the ruls. And for sure. And you don't get to where you're at without sometimes doing that.
100%. I mean, the barn and the house project was a cash only offer. So it was cash only offers. And it was, I think they were advertising at 450, 500,000 or something. And there was people that approached me and Stu saying, listen, this place available, but it's cash only. We don't have the cash. So do you fancy doing it? And kind of we were like, nah, like too many people involved. And then one of the sort of developer guys goes, look, if you probably put in an offer of $500,000, you'll get that. Now we didn't have cash only. So we had to say, oh yes, we've got cash only and we've got the money. But then we had to find the money. In what ways? So we bought the place, we agreed $500,000, it later valued at 450,000. We couldn't get it any more valued, so then the seller actually sold us it for 450.
So hold on, you agreed to buy it for £500,000?
Yeah.
But then when you had it valued, and it's good that you valued it before you bought it, even though you're buying it cash.
Yes.
You had it valued before you bought it, it came at 450, so then you renegotiated to buy it for 450?
Yeah, we just went back and said, look, like it's 450, we can't, there was some sort of knotweed or something in a field.
Japanese knotweed.
That was the one, yes. And it was like, oh, and everyone was like, oh, scared.
Yeah, but that's so funny that you say that. There was some kind of knotweed. To some people, it'll be like, holy moly, Japanese knotweed.
100%.
But, I mean, some of my properties have had Japanese knotweed. Yeah. Let me ask you a question though. Some people might be thinking this, because your business is doing very well. You're turning over 8 million on your guttering business, which I know makes a net profit of about 20%. Mm-hmm. Why would you not have the cash available? Is that because you've invested it elsewhere? Is that just because, like, how can someone that's turning over so much money, who has been in for quite a long time, not be very liquid, i.e. not have much cash in their bank?
No, I never really hold cash. Like we've got, me and Stuart, my business partner, have got like 6 commercial properties. I'd bought another house at the same time that I was doing it, and generally I will try and borrow money to do these sort of things. I've got money in the bank and different things, but we will always try and borrow it, like, and try not to tie too much of our liquid cash into that sort of thing.
That's a foreign concept to most people though, Rory, because most people in their mindset would think borrow if you can't afford to buy it yourself.
Right.
If you can afford to buy it yourself, don't borrow it. What would you say to that?
No, it's just like, if you can get the money, like the way I look at it is if you can get like money and you can borrow money to do a deal which stacks up, that gives you a profit, and you pay back the money you put in, you don't essentially need to put in anything to do the deal, and then you pull out a lump or a profit, or the thing starts cash flowing back once it's paying off the debt. So then that, if you can get the money like that, you can do more things. If you just take your 200 grand and slam it into a property, that's you limited. Also, a lot of the time when the bank and different lenders are looking at you, they want to look at, well, how much money's this guy got? And then if you're sitting with bank accounts that are all overdrawn and you've got loads of debt, nobody wants to touch you. Like my credit rating just now is 999. I've got the highest credit rating you've got, but I've got hundreds of thousands of pounds of debt, but that's fine. It's all well controlled.
So it's about managing the debt then.
100%.
And also, I mean, someone said to me, a very wealthy friend that I have, he said, if you've got millions of pounds, even if you're a multi-millionaire, if you've got millions of pounds in the bank, you're probably a bad businessman.
Yeah.
You know,
true.
because if you're a good businessman, how could you sit with millions of pounds in the bank?
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I've got a lot of money in the bank, it irks me.
Yeah.
Now you want to leave a little bit in because you never know when you might need it or when a cushion could happen. If you've got staff, you need to be responsible for your business. But generally speaking, okay. So you buy this place for £450,000.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, we bought it for 450, some bridging finance, different things. We put in a little bit of our own money. It wasn't like totally all financed. And then we renovated the property, and that was, we spent about 50 to 60,000 pound renovating the house with some land, kind of garage, nice big driveway. And then we rented that out, and then that values today at 450. So the actual house's value is the value of what we bought the whole site for. So on top of that, we've got some land and a large, it's a large commercial sort of barn. And then we rent that out as well. Which
is incredible. And depending on how you look at this, I mean, how much, so the house is worth 450.
Yeah.
And you bought the whole site for 450.
450, yeah.
You invested 50 to 60,000 pounds.
Roundabout, yeah.
So if the house on its own is worth 450, that basically means you've got a free barn.
Pretty much, yeah. And then somebody had offered 250 on the barn to buy it off us with the land around it. We rejected that. So, I mean, a property is worth whatever anyone's willing to pay for it, and we wouldn't sell it for 250. So, yeah, 250 profit just now as it stands.
Which is great.
Yeah, and that's also rented out, so that's given us an income as well, that barn.
And what's the plan? Are you going to refinance the barn?
I don't know. I'd need to speak to you about that later on.
I probably would. Okay, that's absolutely incredible. What were some of the challenges with that? You mentioned that it was Japanese knotweed. How did you get? And this is another thing about you, and this is where your business acumen comes into it. Your background in business, which is just fantastic, is that you're good at getting good people around you. And I've seen you've got an Instagram channel, and I sometimes just look through, I scroll the videos, and I see you've got a great setup. You've got a really clean office, great staff. They all seem happy. How do you manage to build a power team? I mean, how do you get good people around you with property, with business, to manage these processes?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one is my business partner, Stuart. I met him, probably 15, 20 years ago. We first met. Me and him struck it off. A lot of the people around me, I'm always looking at, like, how is the person in life? Like, how are they with themselves? You know, what's the state of their belongings? You know, do they have a lot of friends? Like, are they honest? You know, are they ethical? Are they hardworking? You know, what sort of things do they get up to? And I'm always looking out for good people all the time. And if I see anyone that I think, wow, they tick all the boxes that I've formed over time, I'll try and employ the people. And then there's sometimes people that don't tick the boxes, or you've maybe employed them and then stuff comes to light, and then it's like they actually detract from the organisation, or they detract from you, so you have to kind of get them out, because you want to have a team around you like what you've got, of people that are hardworking, ethical, honest. They've got your back. You don't have to worry about them. You know, they can have access to your bank accounts. They can have access to your house. Like, you don't lose any sleep around them. And when you've got that, it gives you stability. So that's my kind of ethos, that I really look to build these people around me. You definitely can't do it all on your own. It's trying to go out on your own and create this sort of stuff without a team, I would say, is pretty much impossible.
I agree. And you know what? You don't need to know everything about everything. You just need good people around you. I really strongly believe that everything that has gone wrong in my property business, the mistakes, the problems, has always been around people. The builders have messed up. The tenants aren't paying their rent. They're letting agents. But then, who chose that builder? Yeah. Well, it was me. Yeah. And who employed that letting agent? And who found that? And ultimately, it all comes back to me, the entrepreneur. So the skill of being able to find and select good people, and that's something that you are amazing at. Knowing who to work with, who to find, I think is a really, really important skill. Have you got any top tips for finding good people and knowing who you can trust?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a lot of tips, but I would look at, like, it's really simple. It's like, I think having an employee or a business partner is kind of like having a wife or a partner. It's like, is this person going to be faithful to me? You know, is this person going to talk about me? You know, how's this person going to act? So when I'm talking to someone, I'm aware, are they talking about other people? Like in a negative fashion?
Yes.
Oh, this person's talking a lot negatively about others. So why am I going to be any different? You know? Or is the person faithful to their partner? No, they're not faithful to their partner. They're not going to be faithful to me. You know, is the person taking drugs? Does the person trust themselves? You know, do And if they don't trust them, oh no, I don't want to get into this situation because I don't trust myself. Okay, well they don't trust themselves, they're going to trust me, you see. And sometimes I'm not a master. I'm probably worth 3-4 million quid or something like that. I'm not tens
I think
or
that's
hundreds.
conservative if you value your business.
Yeah, maybe, okay, fine. But the point is, like, I still make mistakes, but I'm always learning. I'm like, oh God, I didn't spot that, I didn't see that.
Yes.
But it's like, you really want to look at, like, what's the person's actions? Because whenever I interview people, if you just listen to what the person says, it's very easy to talk like a good talk. It's very easy to say all the correct things. But you really want to look at the person's track record. You want to speak to people that know that person. You want to get referrals. You really want to drill down. And I actually use a really good recruitment company who the owner of the recruitment company I know personally, and they're really good at that. So now as I move into sort of larger businesses and organisations where I need more senior managers, I use them because they really drill down on that with regards to the person's actions in the past, because I don't have time to do that just now, but they use the same formula that I use, so that's why I use them.
I think that's incredible. And talk to me as well, because I know you've done in the last couple of years, you've done other stuff.
Yeah.
And your business partner, Stuart, who recommended you to start watching my courses and doing my content. Didn't he come across me? Wasn't it a negative video that he came across to begin with? So some exposed video or something.
No, I think one of the things I've noticed, and Stuart knows it as well, is like if you're out in the public eye and you're doing well and you're successful, you're going to get attacks. Like if you're not getting attacks, you're probably not being out there enough. And yeah, Stuart was watching, like there was, he was watching some of your videos which he really liked, and then there was some other stuff that was like negative or whatever.
Yeah.
But
in fact, I think it must have been your friend. There was a guy who was bald and he was from Scotland and he had a similar business to you. You're not buddies or neighbours or...
What's the guy called?
I'm not sure.
He's from Edinburgh. No.
So you start watching these... Stuart starts seeing these like expose videos.
He's been watching them. He's been following you for 2 years. He actually got into you before the expose videos.
Okay.
But the expose videos, what me and Stuart know about life, we knew fine well what was going on here.
Yeah.
It's like Samuel's doing really big, getting really successful. Here comes the attacks.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you get through that, because you'll have it from employees internally, you'll sometimes get these sort of attacks. One guy was stealing from us for 2 years, but you'll get external as well. And then it's like, well, how a lot of people could just crumple and fold. And one thing Stuart was like full of admiration for was the way you fought back and then really pinpointed all these facts this guy said and then replaced it with the truth. It was like, here's this lie, here's the truth. Here's a lie, here's the truth. Here's a lie, here's the truth. And by the way, I've been looking at you. Truth. The guy just... And it's like that was...
Yeah, and I don't want to be hard on the people that do these types of videos.
You should.
but everybody has their own agenda.
Yeah.
And everyone's coming from their own place. And sometimes, from my perspective, being selfish, having people doing like looking at you in the spotlight and trying to catch you out and stuff, and God bless them, I've no hard feelings for them. It actually makes me better because I've now suddenly got people in my blind spots, and if I'm going off course, yes, I've got people I'm accountable to and I've got friends, but actually if you've got haters or whatever you want to say, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So
no,
and it was a tough season, and while it lasted, I feel now we're kind of over that now. But who knows what can happen in the future? But it's just great to have people like yourself who've come on. You've done some of the online stuff. You've learned. You've seen that. But then you're a business savvy guy, and you're able to just see actually, these are the facts. This is what's out there. So thank you for your support in that. I appreciate
my pleasure.
Talk to me about the other development, the little place that you bought.
Well, like the main things like the business, but I love property. My dad's bought and sold about 6 or 7 houses by the time I was about 9 years old. We moved a lot, and I saw how he made money just from buying a property under the market value, doing it up and selling it over the market value. And that was his sort of method. And he did that quite steadily throughout my childhood. We'd move every couple of years. And then I was just driving past and I saw this bungalow on quite a big plot. And I looked up online, 350,000, 2-bed bungalow. I thought, God, that is a big plot for 350, especially down where I am in West Sussex. And we went in, the guy was like 350 to 375. And I said, well, look, he was very negative about it. But when I noticed there was like 2 bedrooms and 3 reception rooms and a huge big back garden, I thought this could be a 4-bed. And I said, okay, look, 350. And it was in probate or something, and the lady passed away, and the family accepted the 350. And that was my primary residence, because I always rent. I've always rented properties over the last 10 years. And I put about 100,000 into it. We extended it out the back, new bathroom suite, plumbing, electrics, blah, blah, blah. I spent about 100,000 on it. Like nice driveway, landscaped all the gardens, big patio doors, you name it. And then it got valued there just at 550. So it went up 200,000. I spent 100 and then I made 100,000.
Yeah.
And then because it's my primary residence.
Yeah, boy.
I don't pay any tax on it. So that was
no
another
capital,
one.
and just get that if anyone's watching, you're living it yourself. Any profit that you make on it, there's zero capital gains tax, which is incredible.
Yeah, so it's good. So I run those 2 projects in tandem.
What's interesting as well is that most people, especially when they're living in it, and you lived in it for business reasons, of course, because you're commercially savvy, but most people, they'll be like, oh, I want a conservatory. And they'll spend 30 grand putting a conservatory in, but they'll push the value up of the house by 30 grand.
Yeah.
So it's completely pointless.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, in some cases, they'll spend 50 grand on a fancy conservatory and slabs, and the house will only go up in value by 25 grand.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. But what you've done is you've spent 100 grand, which sounds like a lot, but you've pushed the value up by 200 grand, made £100,000 tax-free profit. Interesting that you said that you usually rent where you live.
Yeah.
Because I teach that.
Yeah.
So that's, again, people watching this might think, how is this guy? This guy says he's making great money. The business is doing really well. He's been in business for years, but he rents where he lives. He doesn't have millions in the bank. But what people don't understand is that's not how to do it.
No.
So why do you normally, until you're doing this for tax reasons, why do you normally rent where you live? What's the rationale behind that?
How our business is really doubled every year in size, so that takes money. So the money we make, we'll put back in. We'll do other property deals and stuff like that. But fundamentally, the main kind of upset I have with owning your own house is you have to have a large chunk of cash sitting in it.
Yeah.
And when I say sit in it, it's not true. The large chunk of cash goes to the bank, and the bank uses that money to make more money. So they take your money and they go and invest it. And what frustrates me is my money, so I'm better to take that money and invest it and use it for things than the bank. And that's really all it was. And again, when I saw you really pushing the fact that people should rent the house, it validated what I'd been doing. And I was like, good, there's another successful guy doing what I'm doing. I'm on the right track.
And a lot of that has been validation. Over the last couple of years, like you're looking at doing stuff, and a lot of it has been validation, because you've messaged me and you've said, oh good, I'm on the right track, or oh, I was thinking about doing bridging on this, but that makes sense because that's what you're talking about. And I think that's really powerful, and it just shows the importance of what I'm doing, because I'm putting out content, I'm doing stuff online, and it makes me feel so fulfilled knowing that people are actually benefiting from it on a financial level. And more than a financial level, you spend so much time giving back, helping people, taking people out for dinners. I saw a quote once, and it said that if you want to be great, don't just stand with great people, but also sit with broken people. And that's something that I know you do. You've got a very strong faith. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I know it's been really, really influential in your life, and it's been a real pivot from getting you from a drug addict with a really rough upbringing to happily married now for how many years?
Got 10, I think. Yeah.
But growing up, you couldn't be with more, you couldn't.
No. I think what you're talking about is basically I got into Scientology when I was.
And by the way, just right there, because I know straight away people are going to be like, I mean, when I first was introduced to not just you, but to Grant Cardone, who introduced me to Charlie, I'm like, oh my goodness, this cult. You know, do I want to have a dinner with Rory, or is he going to try and convert me? And are they going to be drinking baby's blood? You know, you hear these crazy things, and I feel like in the same way that I have been bashed by the media, I feel that Scientology has taken a real bashing, and I mean, you know, from what I have seen and experienced, I mean, I've learned so much from you and from Charlie and from Grant. You know, incredible people with incredible principles. So I just wanted to put that out there because people might be thinking, I was really liking Rory until he mentioned he's a Scientologist, and now, but you really are a great person, and I think you need to just take people for what they are. So anyway, there's my disclaimer. Not that I needed to put a disclaimer out there, but go on.
No. I mean, well, it was funny because when I saw you were a Christian and it was something that you promoted in yourself, I thought, well, I like this guy a lot because he's being who he is and he's promoting who he is, and I think that's important people do that. I mean, I don't really get into much of the stuff in the media and stuff because I've got loads of friends, I've loads of employees, and I know loads of people that know me, they know what I do, and Scientology has helped me a massive deal. Like you said, I was like taking a lot of drugs when I was a kid, and I was pretty much inhibited. My main problem was that I couldn't be in a relationship or even get in a relationship with a woman, and I longed to be with someone, and that was one of my big problems. And I wasn't achieving my dreams. I mean, I was working in a call centre after I'd finished university on 12,000 quid a year, and like driving through Uddingston, like 2 hours, like an hour there, an hour back every day, selling car insurance on the phone. And I was just broken. I was just a bit lost and kind of didn't really know where I was going, didn't really have a purpose. And Scientology really, I mean, I did like a detox thing and it kind of cleaned me up a bit physically, which was kind of a good relief. And then they do like they've got lots of tools to help you with like communication and even like business, like some of the sort of basic business courses that I did that Grant Cardone's done and stuff like that. Like one of those courses was more than what I'd learned in my 4 years at university doing business.
Yeah.
And the way it's structured and the way it's designed, it's really easy to understand, because as soon as they mentioned like books and courses, I was kind of like, I'm out, I can't read, I can't study. No, it's just done in a really nice gradient, a lot of videos and practical examples. And that's where I started. Like my little stair cleaning business had like 7 or 8 stair contracts, and I quickly took it to 50 using these principles in Scientology. And then I met my wife in Scientology in Edinburgh like 10, 11 years ago, 12 years ago maybe, and she was the same. And it was like finally I had somebody I could be myself, I could communicate. She was on my wavelength, and I was like, wow, I like found nice people with really good tools. And it for me, all Scientology is, and all it's ever been, is like really effective tools that you use in life to make your situation better. And obviously it's helped me a lot. So then I like to help others, because that's how it is. You pass it along, and that's my passion. And I don't make any secret of that, or I don't back down from it. Yeah. Same as Grant and all these other people that have used it in all different aspects of life. So that's when I met Stuart, my business partner, and that was a benefit as well, because I know that he's ethical, I know that he's decent, I know that he's honest, and he has the same principles as me, so we really work well as a team.
Well, hey, I can't see how anyone could argue with it. If it's got you off drugs, if it's helped you be a better person, you know, I can't really see that anyone could argue with that. What would be your biggest piece of advice if someone's watching this and they're just and maybe that there's something in them that's holding them back, or they want to be a successful business person, property investor? Like, what would be the best piece of advice that you could give to that person?
I mean, there's a guy called Napoleon Hill, and he said, what the mind can conceive, it can achieve. There was a quote like that. And I thought, like, it's really important, if people have goals or targets or dreams, if they have them, that's the most important thing. And if you have a goal or a target or a dream, and you can actually keep thinking about it and working towards it, you'll find tools and ways to achieve that. And I would say, like, I would say that would probably be one of the best things that I learned, that it's like, I wanted a wife, I wanted a family, I wanted a big business, I wanted to help people, I wanted to be happy. These were all the things that I really wanted. I wasn't, but I wanted them, and I was willing to look and search for tools or ways to achieve that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to even write down or have their goals, have their targets. Like really don't be shy to dream and put that down on paper, or even if you're brave enough, tell another person that you trust, look, this is what I'd really like to achieve. And the more you talk about it, the more you look at it, the better your chances are of getting it.
Yeah. And your guttering business, because it's one of the biggest in the UK, right?
Yeah, the biggest, yeah.
It's the biggest. What's it called?
Ben's Gutters.
Ben's Gutters. Such a simple name, simple business, but absolutely killing it. What are the plans for the future then? What are you wanting to do on the property side, on the business side? What's next?
Well, again, that's Stuart's and our business. We share that together, and we're doing more property. We've actually taken it, believe it or not, to Belgium. We've taken it to Switzerland, these businesses, and it's worked there. So we're trying the model in different places. Stuart's got other business ventures. I've got other business ventures. But really, I mean, we've got like plans together and plans separate, but it's for expansion, it's for growth, it's for helping people, it's getting the word out, like teaming up with people we know, meeting new people, like building, growing, and having fun, and having a laugh, and having more kids, and nice cars, and doing all that.
That's one of the things about you. You always seem, I follow you on Instagram now, you always seem to be having a good time when you're going about business, which I think is really important. It's also really important as well sometimes to say no to deals. I know you were looking at, you actually sent it across to me. You were looking at buying 48 houses. It was this big thing and you were really close to completing on it, but then in the end it was like, actually it's not a great deal. There's a lot of bad tenants, the figures don't quite work, and it didn't tick the boxes, and you walked away from that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to grab life by the horns, but also sometimes you do need to say no to things.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that and why you chose not to go there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was actually, another way you can buy a large amount of properties is if you buy a company. You'll know that yourself.
Of course.
And that has its, for me, it has a lot more pros than it has cons. But again, it was just like, I think it was 43 properties. We actually did start to buy them, and we started to buy shares in the property company that owned them, Stuart and myself. And yeah, it was just after a while I started looking at the kind of quality of the houses, the tenants, how much attention it was taking up, and how much work it was needing done for what return. It was profitable, there was a return, but sometimes I felt like you have to look at like, what are you spending your time on and what are you getting back? And sometimes I think people can get into something that's not necessarily really working that well, but give it a lot of time and energy, and still there's not kind of any fruit at the end of the day. So I just had to look at it, and some of the sort of tenant situations, and people smashing windows and people stealing pipe work or whatever, and I just thought, you know what, like the more higher end property, the bigger stuff seems to be a better quality, a smoother transaction, kind of different sort of people.
I mean, for sure. I mean, I think that buying 43 little houses, you'd be better off probably, and I said this at the time, you're better off probably doing what you have done, which is going and buying a barn and pushing the value up, or buying one bigger property. But that makes sense, and it's just great to see you doing so well. Talk to me about the importance, in your opinion, your experience, of education, because you're someone that went to university to study business, you're someone that's done my online training, you're someone who studies and does personal development courses, and why is that such an important part to you? And do you think that, would you advise everybody do that, or talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, education for me is the like absorbing a knowledge with the idea or purpose of using that knowledge, right? So a lot of people that I've viewed, and myself, are at university getting a degree or studying, and they don't actually know where they're going or what they're doing. So in my viewpoint, that's a waste of time, and it was a waste of my time. I wasted 6 years in higher education because I didn't know what I was doing. And I think you have to have a purpose. It's like when I start looking at your stuff, I really absorb it because there's a purpose, like why am I going to use it? when I read the books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know, pour your heart into it, Elon Musk's latest autobiography, you know, L. Ron Hubbard's books, like was starting to read the Nike book the other day, but I'm reading these books with the idea that, like, what are these guys doing? What moves are they making? How are they doing it? And I'm thinking we're using it. So I would say education would be somebody learning stuff with the idea of using it. So like people getting degrees and stuff, well, what's the point? What's the purpose? Now, if somebody's going to be a doctor or maybe an engineer, that's got a purpose, that's got an end goal. So then, yeah, sure, you're going to need to do education. But a lot of education, I think, to be honest, is pretty much useless, especially at school as well.
Yeah, and people spend, the crazy thing is, people say, oh, Samuel Leeds, oh, he sells you expensive courses. It's like, hold on a minute. The most you can spend with me on any course is £10,000. Now, you might think that's a lot, but that's a lot of training. All these different courses and materials. You go to university, you'll spend that a semester. And you'll to study sometimes philosophy. And then end up at McDonald's. Surely that's the scam. Surely university and college and like the idea of working 40 hours a week for 40 years to retire on 40% of what you couldn't afford to live on in the first place and save up money and work hard and put it in the bank for them to get rich and the bank will give you money for a wedding but not for an investment. That's the scam, folks. I mean, as a business person, what do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But people are so brainwashed.
Yeah, they're in the system.
And people say Scientology is a cult. That's the cult. This people are so brainwashed.
Well, I
get called a cult. People say, oh, I'm
yeah, but I don't think that's the majority of society. I think the majority of people that look at your stuff like it. I think the majority of people that look at Scientology either think, I don't know much about it, or that seems fair enough. You get a small minority of society that are going to just put out all this nonsense. And yeah, a lot of the time, going to university for a degree you can't use, getting into a huge amount of debt and then working a poor job and then you're stuck. It's not a good model, it definitely isn't. So I think, like you said, the importance of education is about gaining knowledge for use. So if somebody just holds that as that's their real right, why am I learning this? And if they don't know why they're learning it, they should just go and get a job, just go and get started. And if they even want to be something in a large field, they want to be some kind of guy that owns a big company in construction, just go and start working in construction and build your way up and spend 6 years working in construction as your education. And then you'll be fine, but don't go to uni to learn it.
Yeah, I agree, and it's just so funny to see the system, the way that people are programmed to think and to act and to behave. I mean, the whole idea of debt, the whole idea that we're encouraged to get bad debt.
Yeah, bad debt.
But then when I'm taking on good debt and talking openly about it, people accuse me of encouraging people to take on debt. But I'm saying, no, this is good debt. But then the media and the government and the education system and banks are actively, and the TV and the media are actively encouraging people to take on bad debt for things like a house to live in themselves, which is a liability, for holidays, for weddings, for sofas. Take it on now and pay for it later. I'm teaching take on a house now and pay for it later on a lease option agreement, not take on a sofa and pay for it later, and by the time you go to pay for it, the sofa's trashed and it's gone down in value and you still haven't got the money. Come on, people are financially retarded.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if, when you say that, it's but there's just no education out there on finances. But that's why I like the stuff that you say, in particular what Grant says. Grant Cardone speaks a lot about the education of what money is, how finances are, how you operate, and there's good information out there on finances. I think people just don't have the tools, and it's promoted heavily, get yourself in the housing market, get yourself in the housing ladder, that's pushed really. And if people aren't on the housing ladder, they feel like they're missing out or they're losing in life, but that's how it's promoted.
Little do they know the housing ladder is very different to what we're talking about.
100%.
We're talking about become a property business entrepreneur and buy assets. Being on the housing ladder is about getting yourself stuck in the rat race of a mortgage but no rent because you're living there yourself. That's dead. Interest payments on the house you live in, that's dead money, not rent.
100%.
Dude, I could talk to you all day. I hope people have found this interview interesting. I'd love to know the comments. So folks, please do a massive favor and subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, smash the like button. If you want to get in touch with Rory, I'm sure you can do that. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Probably Instagram. It's Ruary Mac, is RURYMAC.
Cool. So I'm going to leave in the description, I'm going to leave a link for his Instagram. Spam him like crazy. If you disagree with anything he said, just go on and tell him and troll him. That would be fantastic. Just don't troll me. No, do. It's good for the engagement. If you liked it, smash the like button. If you didn't like it, smash the dislike button, because it makes no difference to the YouTube algorithm. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. If you want to see more winners on our Wednesday videos, you can see them right here. How cool was that? Right there. If you want to subscribe to the channel, no, you need to subscribe to the channel. You can do that right here. And I look forward to seeing you next time.